Yes, fight fans, Jay's Fight Talk here with episode 8 of Straight Talk. Joining me as always, my no punches pulled co-host, boxing oracle and good friend Liam Tuller. How we doing, brother?
I'm all good, my friend. I'm all good. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. It's been a long day. It's been a long week. It's been a long month. It's been a long year, but here we are. Um, Slim pickings this week for boxing or fight sports in terms of headlines. We've got some big shows in the pipeline, a big UFC event this week. But in terms of headlines as such, which is what Straight Talk's all about, really, predominantly, it's slim pickings. But look, we'll start from the top. All the debacle over the past few years about Olympic boxing and Olympic sport, they've added BMX in and tiddlywinks and flipping twister and all sorts of nonsense. I'm not disrespecting any of the sports, they've all got a place. Or I say sports, but some of the events that have been added to the Olympics, and then the likes of boxing. If we're honest, boxing is one of the oldest sports. Queensberry rules boxing is not, but fist fighting in general, one versus one, we can go back as far as the Greeks, and probably before that, there'll have been two men squaring down over, a saber-toothed tiger or something. And, there's the likes of Muhammad Ali, Evander Holyfield, Anthony Joshua, people like that have built their careers on not even winning the Olympics. I chose 3 gold medalists there, but people have built their Amir Khan, right? Without an Olympic silver medal, Amir Khan would not be the Amir Khan that we know today that talks about himself in the third person. The Olympics, right? Amir Khan. I don't know if you might be a bit young, but they televised his final amateur contest on ITV against Mario Kindelin. So the Olympics has been a massive part of fighters. Joe Joyce, for example, if he hadn't waited round for the next Olympic cycle and got a silver medal, he could have just been another British boxer. Fraser Clark. Buatsi. I could go on forever.
You could keep going on, mate.
The Olympics has played a massive part in a lot of sports, but boxing is the sport that I'm most passionate about. And to scrap it, no. First, they pissed around with it, started letting professionals to join the Olympics, and it just went all weird. It just went all weird, didn't it? I think who was the high-level pro? Callum Smith knocked him out. I always think Adamus, but it's not. And Damu, and do you know what I'm on about?
Yeah, I know.
Callum Smith knocked him out, didn't he? He went into Olympics. It got all messy. Bless you, man. Bless you.
Cheers, mate. Sorry, mate.
It got all weird, didn't it? And then they took it away. And apparently, now they've said it's done, but I'm not sure. But apparently, Olympics is back in LA for 2028. I before I let you go, Liam, I think if the Olympics was being held anywhere other than LA, we might not have seen boxing back. I think it's got more to do with the likes of Golden Boy, Top Rank, that kind of behind the scenes, maybe, with it being in LA, because they'll probably put it on in some big, maybe the Sphere, not the Sphere, but, one of the bigger venues, maybe, and make more pomp and ceremony about it. What's your take on it, Liam?
Look, first and foremost, I am glad that boxing, I say with 80% certainty, is going to be at the next Olympic Games. I think a big deal is AIBA's obviously been turfed out and they've got a new governing body in for it. And that everything you've just mentioned about it being messed around, etc., it comes from AIBA. AIBA deciding that they wanted to allow professionals to come in. AIBA deciding that they were going to mix up how punches were scored during the fights, etc. It was add the corruption and the brown envelopes. Mick Conlon in Rio comes to mind with his robbery, and we could go on and on again about that. It's good that the IOC said we're not going to stand for it anymore. The IOC kicked out AIBA for the Paris Olympics last year, and they run it themselves, didn't they? It wasn't a perfect competition. It had its flaws, but we still had boxing. And us as boxing purists that love boxing, that love seeing the amateurs coming through, we were glad for it. Now under this new governing body that the IOC have all but in ink approved of, and look like we're heading in the right direction, I'm really glad. I don't think necessarily that Golden Boy and Top Rank have got involved. I just think that this new governing body have said all the things that the IOC want to hear, and the IOC they never wanted to get rid of boxing. Boxing's never a sport that was top of the list to remove from the Olympic Games. But when corruption was so rife and it was so blatantly obvious what was happening, they couldn't allow it to be there.
Back. Yeah.
I mean, Audley Harrison won a gold in 2000. Okay, you can say what you want about his professional career, but if you look at Audley Harrison to Amir Khan in 2004, those two Olympic Games gave the funding to allow James DeGale to win his gold in 2008, to allow Nicola Adams to win the first female boxing final in 2012.
Yeah.
That's all the footmarks we're talking about. And you go further back to 96 and obviously further back to when Ali and Sugar Ray Robinson and Fraser and all of that fought. It has a long-standing history. And what makes boxing unique for me is, unless you mess around with it, they are amateurs. They're not professionals. This for them is the peak of their amateur career. And then before they turn over, that's what makes it so special. They're at an Olympic Games. They're representing their country on a global stage, but they're not professionals. They're doing it to get to that next stage. And that's for me why I've always loved boxing, why I'm so against professionals being in it. Nothing to do with the fact that they're professionals and they've got a massive advantage. It takes away from the core of what boxing should be in the Olympic Games. So, look, the IOC is a crazy place. It could all change by this time next week, but all the signs are really good. Everything's moving in the right direction.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's a good thing that Sebastian Coe lost.
Yeah.
And I think the South African runner, or the African runner, sorry, that's going to be the head. I forget her name now. I think she'll be better. Sebastian Coe's as bent as a 9-bomb note. He's as dodgy as they come. And yeah, I said it. Sue me. No, please don't sue me, Lord Coe. But no, there's just some. I prefer him not to be involved. Couple of people joining us. That's my nephew over there, my Twitter nephew over there in Canada. Yes, brother. DJ Pat's joining us. We're all good over here, DJ Pat. Hope you're well there, brother. So yeah, I think, as you said, it's a good thing. Boxing has always been part of the Olympics. It's been a platform for people to not necessarily just get momentum off the back of winning a medal. There's plenty of fighters that we know and love today that just represented their country in the Olympics. It opens the door for opportunities, the eyes of the world. The Olympic Games, other than the World Cup of football, is probably the most viewed sporting event in history. It might actually eclipse the World Cup. I'm not sure, but they'll be pretty close. So it's a positive for me. It's a positive for me, and I can't wait for LA 2028 to see who comes through.
Yeah, look, we've said it ourselves that the 2024 crop, not just in Britain, but across the games as a whole, wasn't a vintage crop. We're not probably going to be talking about future Hall of Famers out of that crop, but you've got to think a lot of that's to do with the uncertainty that was around boxing.
Yeah,
the 10 months before the games, we didn't know if there was going to be boxing. So at the last minute, a lot of these fighters that started turning towards pros are doing a 360 and coming back to boxing. We've got this decision made in 2025. The next games is 2028. Yeah. The qualification tournaments won't be rushed. There'll be European and World Championships. It should get back into being one of the best parts of the Olympic Games for me when we get to LA.
I hope we've got a good, strong team, because we've got a good, I'm talking as a Brit now. Yeah. We have a really good British team and we have a really good British setup. I've said it before. My brother was part of the first influx of fighters that started to get lottery funding. It was England as such, then more than Team GB. It was with, I'll tell you who was in it, Paul Smith, my brother, Martin Murray, Matthew Macklin. They were part of the first influx of fighters that were aiming to go to the Olympics. My brother didn't go to the Olympics. He turned over, but I've seen the evolution, and I've been part of, or seen behind the scenes and seen how much work goes into it. And it's not just the fighters and coaches. There's big teams part of, the international setup. And there were a lot of people that were put out of work and stuff like that we don't see, people at work, like football team, the thing that's going on with Man United, the women in, the people in the canteen and the people at reception and physios and nutritionists and sports scientists. There's a lot goes into it. I don't know. There's some fan here saying evening. I don't know that guy.
Whoever this guy is.
Some fan. Yeah. Inbox me. I'll send you a signed photo, brother. Next one for me. I think this is a big one. Navarrete. is going to be defending his £130 belt against Suarez, unbeaten. I think he's 18-0, May the 10th. What? I don't know much about Suarez. What do you know, Liam? You're the stat guy for me, but I'm a little bit underwhelmed by this fight.
Look, we said, didn't we, after Navarrete won in December, that we want to see him fight again soon. We're getting him out in May, so this is good news to at least
but
see
against somebody that we'd heard of.
Yeah, look, it's unfortunately Top Rank doing Top Rank. They're trying to protect their assets that they've got, bearing in mind they know that they're about to disappear off of ESPN towards the end of this year, and Navarrete for them is one of their brightest assets they have left. Put him up there with Keyshawn Davis in terms of his marketability to an audience. So, unfortunately, I can't bail you out on Suarez. I don't know a lot.
We'll be watching it. He's unbeaten. He's highly ranked. I think I don't think it's a mandatory. I think it's a voluntary.
It's voluntary. His mandatory was last time.
Yeah. But look, we'll be tuned in, and then I'm hoping that we see a massive fight off the back of that. Benavidez has been calling to fight Dimitri Bivol. The dust has only just settled for me off the back of him beating. I nearly said Dimitar Berbatov then, but Artur Beterbiev. I mean, he would beat Dimitar Berbatov, but Benavidez. So they've been really quiet, and then all of a sudden they've started screaming, and his manager, now don't quote me on this because I've read conflicting reports. I've read 3 articles today. 2 of them have said that they're looking at lobbying for Bivol to be stripped, and one of them said that they are just pushing his team to make the fight and feel that he should be stripped if they don't make the fight. But it's his management and coaches that are saying this. I've not heard Benavidez even mention Bivol. He's sort of glossed over it every time he's been asked. I don't believe that Bivol should be stripped. I think he should be given time to decide whether they're going to do the 3rd fight because they are 1-1. I think it's 2-0, but they are 1-1. It's a bit similar to when Triple G and Canelo boxed.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? There were draws that shouldn't have been draws, and I thought Triple G won the first one, and I thought he won the second one. And what do you think? Because it's starting to become messy now. They're talking about lobbying and stripping. Starting to become really sort of dark. What's your thoughts on it, man?
Team Benavidez can lobby as much as they want. The IBF have already said that their mandatory comes first, be it Bivol does it now and he keeps hold of all 4 belts, or if he decides to go after the 3rd Beterbiev fight, they strip him. That's what happens. The IBF are first. Beterbiev paid step-aside money to this mandatory challenger for the rematch on the condition that whoever won fights him will get stripped. So, look, Team Benavidez are trying to stay relevant because, unfortunately, no one's really picked up on his victory against Morel. The fact that it came only a week before the Beterbiev-Bivol rematch, in hindsight, probably wasn't the best time to place it.
Wrong time. Should have done it after for me.
Yeah. Regardless, no one's talking about Benavidez. His name is, and not because anyone's scared of him, it's just his relevance right now isn't in the picture. There's another mandatory there. If the IBF strip him, then tell Benavidez to go after that mandatory challenger. His name escapes me. Make them fight, and then if Bivol wants to hang around after a 3rd Beterbiev fight, you've got to fight there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, from Bivol's point of view, and I'm going to use Usyk as an example. Do you think that once they've done it and they've got the undisputed, they've got all the belts, right? They've won it. Do you remember Usyk just let the IBF go? And do you think the fact that he's done it, they don't necessarily need to keep all the belts together? Because they've actually done it. Everybody knows that they've done it. They know that they're the man. So they don't need to be forced into it. Do you know what I'm saying? So, like, you're a champion, you've got 1 belt, even 2.
Yeah.
And the sanctioning body says, right, you've got 90 days to fight. You shit yourself. You don't want to lose the belts. You don't want to go back down and lose your paydays. So you'll make the fight. Whereas Usyk wouldn't be bullied. Everybody knew he was the man. He beat the man who beat the man. He got all the belts. So it was like, all right, we'll take it then. I'm not sure if Bivol will do something like that. I don't think that he will be forced into making a defense of one of his belts because he gets lobbied. I think that's the wrong way to go about it. I think if anything, he'll dig his heels in and say, nah, you can piss off. We're not doing it.
I think it's when you hold more than 1 belt, then you kind of are, like you say, you're in that position of if you let one go, it really doesn't bother you. I mean, we remember that Usyk video from the summer where he said, "It's my present to you, Daniel and Anthony, to fight for my belt. Like, it's my belt,
sort of
the red-coloured belt, the red-coloured IBF belt." And again, it's the IBF belt we're talking about here. Let's park the WBC for a second because it doesn't matter. They're not going to jump above the IBF. So Benavidez can do what he wants. It's not happening. I don't know. I mean, for Usyk, he's almost going to get another crack, isn't he? If reports are to be believed, then he's going to go in against Dubois, so he's got a chance of becoming undisputed again. How much does Bivol care about it? I mean,
I don't think he does.
He chased it. How long did he hold on to that He done 11 defenses or something stupid of that WBA belt, didn't he?
Yeah.
And just allowed the other belts to go towards Beterbiev. We always kind of thought he may be the better of the two fighters, but there was never any real rush.
The paths were sort of parallel. They never sort of intertwined until they did at the end.
Exactly. And I think Bivol was quite happy doing what he was doing. If he never fought Beterbiev, but he went out having beaten up Canelo like he did that night in Vegas, I think he would have been quite happy with that. It wouldn't at all surprise me for the IBF belt to fall away. And then if the WBC decide they want to look after one of their Mexican chums and give Benavidez a fight, I can see the WBC belt falling away as well. It wouldn't matter if there's no world titles on a third fight between Beterbiev and Bivol for me. We all know they are the two men. I would pay to see them fight 20 times, and I reckon you get something like 12-10, 11... Sorry,
your maths is worse than mine tonight, bro.
10-all, 11-9, something like that between them because of how evenly matched they are. I think it would be such... You know where I stand. I just think the belts dilute the product. Everyone gets so wrapped up in belts and wanting new champions. Let's remember, the IBF belt 168 is currently held by William Skull. And his fight against Shishkin shows just how much a drop-off is from Canelo at the top to where that belt is. Now, we knew what the drop-off was from seeing Canelo fight Charlo, Belanga, Munguia, but we're now going to see that drop-down level as a world champion in against Canelo. And then you've got to ask the question, Canelo's going to beat Skull for me quite handily. Yeah. Okay, so is that really the value we hold just because the governing body wants 3%? So we strip the king and we let someone more on this level hold a world title belt. It's just a whole different conversation, isn't it?
It's the IBF rushing people again because they want the 3%. People could disagree with me for that, but I always believe that they're just pushing people. They did it with Fury when he beat Klitschko, knowing there was a rematch clause. They give him a 90-day mandatory, knowing that he had a rematch clause. DJ Pat says, it's Turkey who wants a trilogy. Bivol will want only to fight, and I bet it will be the IBF mandatory before that trilogy. I disagree, Pat. I don't think he'll do it. I don't think he'll get forced in. I think he'll let the belt go before he gets forced in. But you're not normally wrong, Pat, so we'll have to keep our eyes peeled. Good evening, Mr. Neutral. If you're not, follow Mr. Neutral and Jams Boxing over at Red Corner Boxing. A lot of good content over there, previews, reviews, interviews. So make sure you're following Mr. Neutral and Jams Boxing over at Red Corner Boxing. I was going to cover it, but I'm not. Jamal Herring got arrested. I think it's to do with domestic dispute. So I don't know. So I think, that's probably all we'll leave on there. I think you need some Manuka honey, Liam. You look like you're struggling with your allergies today, brother. Your eyes look a bit swollen.
Mate, I'll send you a photo in a minute. A couple of hours ago, both my eyes were closed. They were closed over.
I struggle so bad. Mine have not started yet, but it's coming.
I'm feeling it today, mate. I'll send you that photo in a minute. They were completely closed over. I wasn't going to be able to do it a couple of hours
ago. Hell. A lot of noise. So I heard you touched on it about Dubois and what happened with Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker's come out this week and he started again with his Shania Twain parody, and he's brilliant. He's so funny, man. He's so dry. Very similar to Usyk, and he deserves that fight. But I saw a clip on my drive home tonight. Sorry, I was a passenger in a car on my way home tonight. Whilst I saw a video as a passenger on my way home tonight, and Don Charles was being interviewed, and he was asked about the illness. I think Andy Lee had said there's no evidence, and look, Don Charles went off, went from 0 to 100 quick. Now, I'm not saying that's a guilty conscience, but Don Charles is one of the most reserved men I've ever seen. I've met him. I've interacted with him. It's not a show. It's not a persona he puts on for the cameras. He's a calculated, reserved, calm, collected, cool character. He went off on Andy Lee, not effing and jeffing, but as good as, and said he's got proof that there was an illness and they've got a doctor's note, and he can bring a note from whoever, but was really, really, really defensive. That tells me not that there was anything untoward in terms of Daniel being ill, but it feels as though he's looking for a reason to fall out with Joseph Parker so they can say, do you know what? Fuck you. We're going with Usyk. That's what it felt like for me.
Mate, it's all a mess of a situation, and fair play to Andy Lee for calling it out, because it seems to have just gone quiet. We've mentioned it, but the big media outlets, DAZN, Sky Sports,
not saying anything.
Not saying anything, and it's not right. Joseph Parker was a mandatory. Now, we know, because we watched the belt fall away to allow Dubois and Joshua to fight for it, a mandatory supersedes anything with the IBF. They don't care what's going on. Yeah. So, it's just a mess. I mean, that call-out video was one of the first things I saw yesterday morning, and
fantastic.
It's brilliant. Yeah. Joseph Parker does it like no other. I mean, we've seen his David Brent sketch and the Hugh Grant video and stuff during lockdown. It was fantastic the way he does all of that. He promotes himself in such a good way. And hey, if fights got made on how you promote a fight, then Jesus, Parker would be...
It'd be the unified, undisputed champion, wouldn't it?
It would be. I think Don Charles sounding off like he did to me and saying they've got evidence. Well, now let's see the evidence. Let's be...
It's like Conor Benn. I'm not saying the two situations are the same, but Conor Benn is continually ramming down people's throats. I've been cleared. I've got proof. I've been cleared. I've got proof. Well, show us then.
That's all I want to see now. I just want to see what it was. Look, it doesn't matter if it was, say, dehydration and he was on a drip, like we heard reported, that he needed a 24-hour drip and that was him ruled out. It doesn't matter what it is. You're going to save face more, in my opinion, with whatever the medical reason was, than saying, we can prove it, but not showing anything. Look, in an ideal world, Dubois and Parker should be made for the summer. No ifs, no buts, no maybes. That should be made for the summer. Usyk, I mean, Kabayel is his WBC interim champion and mandatory. Is it a fight we want to see? No. Probably not, because we know where Usyk's at. But give Usyk that, let him get his WBC and mandatory made, and then whoever wins Parker and Dubois, we get at the end of the year.
They fight each other, yeah.
And Turkey, look, and we were saying this 2 years ago, it sounded like a fever dream. Boxing doesn't work like that. It will never happen. But there's now a man with a lot of money behind him called Turkey that is making these things happen. I'd like to think it's what he's going to do. I'd like to think he'd say, Daniel, you must fight.
Think he's going to do. Look, he's a box. Sorry to cut you, but the guy's meant to be a boxing guy. I'm sick of hearing this now. He's a boxing guy. He's a boxing guy. He's a boxing guy. Well, if he's a boxing guy, right, he'd do the right thing and met the fights that are meant to be made, not the fights that fans necessarily want to see, not the fight that's going to sell the most pay-per-views, right? If he is a boxing man, right, which he says he is, then he'll make he says he is. Apparently he loves the sport. But if he is, then he'll make the fight that's right and the fight that should be made, right? And that fight is Parker versus Dubois. That's the fight that was supposed to happen. There was an issue. Parker stayed on the card, irrespective of the result. The fight, well, I say irrespective of the result, the manner of the result. If he'd have lost, then it's a different conversation. But he didn't. He won. He won in emphatic fashion. And he deserves that shot. He's more than earned that shot. More than earned that shot. And if he doesn't get it, I think it's disgusting for me. And you know, I mean, there's no I can do about it, but I'd be pissed, man, if they don't make that fight.
It kills the whole Turkey narrative of I make the fights, I do it for the fans. If he allows Dubois and Usyk to fight, I mean, yes, we get an undisputed heavyweight champion, but we are not waiting 25 years this time. It will be more likely 25 months. I mean, come on, don't spoil us. We waited long enough to get it the first time. We can wait another fight.
Do you know what I don't like about? And we know it happens, right? And we know that, you know, money talks and bullshit walks, right? But it's got to be done right. And if you don't do it right, it just proves that boxing is as corrupt as It always has been. I'm not saying Turkey's doing anything untoward and illegal, but he's pulling strings, calling in favors, and making shit happen, not by how it should be going naturally. Joseph Parker deserves that fight, right? And we know people don't always necessarily get what they deserve, but to have that fight set up, it fall off through an illness. So not for anything other than just an illness, not a PED test or someone's committed a crime and got locked up or whatever. It was an illness. So what it should be is a postponement, not a cancellation. And it sounds like they're cancelling the fight and moving on. That's wrong for me. It just doesn't sit right. Not from a boxing man.
And like they're talking about Parker Caballero being on the Usyk Dubois undercards, and that for me stinks, because then what you have is the WBO and the WBC interim champions fighting when they should be in different fights. Caballero should get Usyk. For me, if Turkey's that desperate to bring all the belts back together, fine, whatever.
Have
Give
semi-finals.
Usyk. Yeah, well, semi-finals, different fights, and allow Parker to get his shot. That's the reality. And look, me and you both favoured Parker for that fight in February. I would still favour Parker, but Dubois has shocked us all over the last years. Less so you before you say it again, but he's proved enough people wrong that I want to see it happen again.
Absolutely.
I want to see what you can do to Joseph Parker. I mean, Joseph Parker as well can't afford another period of inactivity. From the Zhang fight last March to getting in with Martin McCauley was 340 odd days.
He needs momentum, doesn't he?
It's too long. And we also don't want to see him come back in with another interim fight. We need to see him in with the creme de la creme. Even if he gets given the Usyk fight and something else happens with Dubois, I don't care. But Joseph Parker's next fight needs to be either Usyk or Dubois.
For the belt.
For the belt. For the belt or belts. If it's...
Yeah. He needs to be fighting for a proper champion,
because he's WBO interim, so that means he's the mandatory for Usyk, and obviously he's had the shot with the IBF. I mean, it's quite funny that he obviously was going to get stripped by the WBO as soon as he walked through the ropes, wasn't he, against Dubois? And then the fight pulled off, and WBO belts back out, and the WBO are back being his best friend. It just shows how fickle it all is. But he's in a good position with every governing body, but he's number one with the WBO with that interim bollocks, and he's also just lost an IBF shot. So between those two, he should get one of those two next.
We will see. We will see. Hopefully, we'll see something this year. I don't want them dragging it out, but we'll see. Rope It Up Boxing Podcast. How we doing, Dave? Hope you're well over there. Right, Nick Ball. In a way, there's a lot of noise this week. Do you think we're going to see that fight? I don't think we're going to see that fight, me.
Mate, I know we spoke about it a bit last week, but it's not worth giving the airtime because Nick Ball's path next is unification. So it's looking like Stephen Fulton, cracking matchup. I want to see that fight. Yeah. And Inoue is on a free fight plan with Turkey. He's got to get this.
That's what I mean. I don't know why they're talking about it, because I don't believe we'll see it. Or if we do, it's a good 12 months off.
Inoue's got to get this fight out and away in Vegas, because you still have to crack America. Remember, it's the 80s. You've got to fight in Vegas.
America is the world.
I mean, poor Bob. He sits there in Tokyo. Someone probably tells him he's in Vegas when he's watched Inoue fight the last 5 or 6 times. I think he gets this fight out of the way, and then it looks like being MJ towards the end of the year, doesn't it? Which is a fight we want to see. I hope, again, it's not going to fall off for politics and BS reasons. I do believe we're going to get Inoue, MJ Akhmadaliev towards the end of this year. I don't know if he moves up against Inoue. I think once he's done at 122, I don't think we'll see him make another jump to 126. You got to remember where he started. He started at such a light weight.
Too big for him. That's what'll catch up with him. Is a bit like Loma.
Yeah,
he'll go up too much, and all his advantages sort of dissipate with bigger people. What's Rope It Up saying? Not interested at the moment. Nakatani, Inoue over for me. Ball versus Espinosa is a firefight unification. Yeah, that's pretty much what Liam said. I'm not interested myself. It's just that they've been making a lot of noise this week about that fight, and I think it's smoke and mirrors, as Liam said. Ball's going for unifications. Inoue's in a 3-fight deal, and a figure spokesperson for Riyadh season. We're not going to see him moving up to to featherweight to fight Nick Ball. I don't believe we see that fight for at least 12 months, if we see it at all, mate.
This is the thing. It's not like they don't have options in their weight division, so we're trying to find a fight to make for them. You've just said there, Espinoza and Stephen Fulton are fantastic unification options for Nick Ball. MJ and Nakatani are fantastic options for Inoue. It's not like we've had in boxing in the past where we've needed to move fighters around weight divisions to give them good matchups. There's enough fights there. If we ever do see that fight, Inoue's a favourite, even though he'll be going up in weight.
Yeah.
But I just don't think we do. I think once he's done at 122, he'll stay there for a while. He's more likely to go back down to 118 for me than move up to 126.
Yeah, I don't see him going up to 126. I just think it's a stretch. And it's, as much as we'd want to see him fight Ball, say, as a Brit, I don't see any sort of sexy fights up there at 126. I think he's better unifying at 122 and then going down and doing it at 118. And then, he might call it quits. He's made a lot of money fighting in Japan. A lot of money. He signed, I think he got $15 million just for the sponsorship, didn't he, from Riyadh season? So God knows what he's getting for his 3-fight deals, but it's not going to be Canelo money, but he's probably going to be one of the highest paid smaller fighters under 130, 135 in the world, probably. So yeah, that's that. Any other headlines you want to touch on, Liam? As I said, it's slim pickings this week, but anything you want to talk about and discuss?
Nothing really, mate. I mean, we've covered off the main things, and I think we've said it on Tuesday when we've done No Punches Pulled. This is kind of the last week in the doldrum, so to speak, after the high of February 22nd.
Busy.
And then we push on. You've got the grudge matches with Vong and Flynn on the Friday night and the Mayer Ryan rematch on the Saturday to keep us busy next weekend.
Yeah.
Then it's into April, DAZN and Queensbury link up with the Eubank Jr. Conor Ben circus, and then we move into the weekend of Times Square on Friday night.
When's Whitaker and Cameron?
Whitaker and Cameron's Easter Sunday, so the 20th.
So is that the week before Eubank Ben then? Brilliant. Yeah. So
yeah, that weekend, the Friday night, you got the Dalton Smith card, and then the Sunday, you've got, and then the Sunday you've got the Whitaker Cameron card. Sorry, mate. My mind.
Fantastic. Well, look, we'll wrap it up for episode 8 for this week. It's a bit of a short one, but it is slim pickings. You'll catch myself and Liam possibly over on SW Fight Hub's YouTube channel tomorrow with some predictions for the UFC London Fight Night card that takes place on Saturday night, headlined by former welterweight champion Leon Rocky Edwards facing off against Sean Brady. Just a quick one, Liam. Have they both lost their last fights to Bilal? Has Brady not fought since?
No, Brady's not fought since, and Leon was promised he'd get London to come back to, and we know London's in March. So
here we are. Some good fights on that card. I'm looking forward to Gunnar Nelson's fighting Kevin Holland. We've got
Jan Blachowicz.
Mick Parkins fighting Tybora. We've got Jai Herbert. We've got Shannon Mama B. We've got, I'll tell you what's a fight, Jordan Vacevic versus Chris Duncan.
Yes, that's
a fight.
And to add to it, as Brits, we get 2 a year, don't we? We get London and we get Paris.
Baby.
Sit over takeaway and watch it rather than flipping having to stay awake. So
Nathaniel Wood is fighting the French guy, Chilwa, is it?
Chilwa. Oh, mate, it's just a cracker. Everything from the prelims, it just slaps. It's going to be fantastic.
So tomorrow we'll do some previews. We might do a weigh-in show, but Saturday there'll either be me, Liam and Sam, me and Liam, me and Sam, Sam and Liam. 2 of us or 3 of us will be watching that. We'll have live play-by-play from first to last fight. So you can catch us over on SW Fight Hub. Liam_Tully9 on all socials. You can catch him on Jay's Fight Talk, this channel, most Wednesdays for Liam's Fight Night picks. If you want to get involved, send me a DM, send Liam a DM, and you can get involved on Liam's Fight Night picks. Follow me on socials. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe. It is as it says down there, Jay's Fight Talk on all socials and X and YouTube. Thanks for joining us, DJ Pat, Mr. Neutral, Rope It Up Boxing, some fanboy, SW Fight Hub. I don't know who he is. Notorious, my nephew, Notorious Lifestyle over in Canada. I need to get you on the channel at some point in the coming weeks. Liam, as always, thank you, brother, for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I will see you tomorrow. Everybody else, keep punching.
Cheers, everyone.